intellectually demanding. I know the last one was a little heavy, so we're going to lighten the mood up a little bit. So I'm just going to introduce myself real quick. My name is Nikita. I am a junior here at Yale University studying global affairs, and I will be moderating our panel today titled Founders Who Spark Change, which is represented by these beautiful, amazing women. Can we just give a big round of applause for her? So just kind of to ground us in what we're going to be talking about today, I really wanted to focus on our speakers, who are just such a dynamic group of entrepreneurs who have each launched their own respective brand with a very unique vision to tap into the vast potential of building communities and showcasing South Asianness in any sort of the word, and also potential of the youth demographic. These amazing creators stand out for their innovative and unconventional approaches, driven by compelling narratives that underpin their missions to affect meaningful change. So I would love to give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves to the crowd, just to make ourselves a little bit more familiar with each other.
So I'm Aleezeh. I'm one of the co-founders of CTZN Cosmetics, which I actually founded with my sister. So there's three of us that work together. And our brand is all about enhancing cultural awareness through beauty. So beyond just making inclusive shade ranges and products, we actually are known for a segment called Culture Tutorial, which is basically a get ready with me video while you tell me about your culture. So whether you're from India, Pakistan, Spain, it's like a 1-minute segment you can find on our Instagram or TikTok, and kind of just getting to know different cultures and people around the world in a more meaningful way, but also still in that beauty landscape. Because there's so much you can learn about different people's beauty cultures and things like that. So that's kind of what we're known for and what we're really passionate about with the brand.
Hi everyone, my name is Shaina. I'm co-founder CMO of a Gen Z marketing company called Juve. My co-founder actually went to Yale, and I graduated from college 2 years ago, but I've been telling everyone I love any excuse to pretend that I'm back in college, so this is a true treat for me to be back on a college campus of sorts, and I get to lead a lot of our thought leadership work, engage with brands, and help Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, startups better understand young people. So our team is entirely majority Gen Z led, and we have a lot of independent contractors and folks that are college and high school students that actually co-create products, ideas, and campaigns for our clients. So I'm very excited to be here because the younger end of Gen Z keeps me relevant. So I'm sure there's a lot I can learn from you all, rather than you learn from me. So very excited to be here.
Hi guys, my name is Neerja. I'm the founder of a PR company called Neerja PR in New York, and I work with a lot of lifestyle brands and do lifestyle PR, so food, fashion, skincare, beauty. Don't really touch on tech and pharmaceutical, and really to give the South Asian brands and South Asian talent a platform. So most of my clients, while they are South Asian, they're also looking for visibility into the community. But if I also have non-South Asian clients that if they're running a campaign and want to be in front of the South Asian community, I work with them. So if I work with the venue and they bring in a South Asian artist or something, then we do PR and really help them kind of curate a campaign that will resonate with our community.
Hello everyone, my name is Sonal Soveni. I am the founder of The Table and Gallery. I'm locally based, so I'm right here on 1209 Chapel Street. And as a founder, I'll be hitting 1 year at my business in New Haven. And the intention was to get out of the restaurant industry and open up a space that would just exhibit artists and filmmakers and writers and musicians. But it came with a kitchen, and I told myself I will never go back to the kitchen. But as a founder, I need to survive. So I said, you know what, I am going to honor the space that I grew up in, which is the hospitality industry. I know the industry very well, I grew up in it, but the restaurant industry became very toxic. So I said, I'm gonna change the narrative. I'm gonna marry what I love with what I know, which is now I'm going to connect all of these different stories and tell story through food. So I host this space, and each month I exhibit artists, filmmakers, writers, culinary artists, and we all come together and we curate the menu. We curate the menu according to the artist's background, what nourished their soul, what got them to where they are. So each medium tells a story, and I focus on a very important element, which is you're healing through these mediums, and you're also telling a powerful story. So you're not just looking at a beautiful artwork, but we want to know, why did you create that artwork? Why did you create that piece of music? And why did you decide to put that film together? So this is a safe space for creatives, and I'm really honored to tell this story in front of all of you amazing people. So thank you for having us.
Wow. I'm so impressed by all of your guys' stories and how you found yourselves as trailblazers in all of your respective fields. Kind of pushing the boundaries in all sense of the word. I know that's something that we've been hearing a lot throughout this conference. So all of my questions are going to be open-ended, so please feel free to chime in. But specifically for this one with Aleezeh, CTZN Cosmetics, you've significantly impacted the beauty industry by emphasizing representation and inclusivity, especially for South Asian and Middle Eastern communities. And Shaina, with Jude Consulting, you've integrated Gen Z insights into reshaping business practices and focusing on areas such as ESG, which is so important to our generation. So I'm really interested in how you guys want to continue driving change within your industries and breaking these barriers to set new standards for the future. So how do you kind of envision that going, and do you anticipate any challenges that are going to be coming your way towards this?
Yeah, well, I think for me specifically, kind of because we stand for like culture and embracing different cultures around the world, there's like over 3,000 cultures. It's hard to kind of cater to everyone, but we are trying to like step in that direction. So in little ways that we try to involve the community, we have this community testing group that we just launched recently, and it's our way to kind of get feedback from citizen consumers and then also just generally like consumers of the beauty industry. And we have about 16 people now just representing different cultures, different ages, even different disabilities. And this is our way to kind of get feedback of like, how can we do better with product formulations, packaging, even our content, like our culture tutorials, how can we make it more meaningful, what's missing? Because we're really happy to kind of play that student role and really get feedback from other people, because we're not trying to claim that we're perfect. Like there's so much that we want to learn ourselves from other people's cultures. So I think this community testing group is like the best way to kind of do that and kind of get that feedback from other people so that we don't make any mistakes and don't get canceled by anyone. But it's also really cool just to learn more too about like what are people looking for in terms of shade ranges, undertones. So I already know like in the South Asian culture, like we've had our fair share of like issues with like mixing shades together, like getting the right complexion. So it's cool to kind of also learn from other cultures like what they've kind of had to deal with in that same realm.
I never thought that I was going to be in marketing. When I got to college, I knew that I wanted to be some kind of founder, likely a social entrepreneur. Thought I was going to work at the UN for the longest time because I did involved in the UN my entire life. And then I was like, never mind, way too much red tape and bureaucracy, too slow for me, I'm not doing it. But when I got to college, I met my co-founder my freshman year, and it was kind of just like, your freshman summer internship doesn't really matter. And I was like, okay, like I might as well just test this out and see what happens. And we were very lucky that we got a New York Times feature our first summer that we tried to do this full time, and ended up working all throughout college and on the company full time, which was pretty taxing. But I don't even know how we did it. But I think when I got to work in this industry, it was very indicative of the fact that there are not people that look like you, that think like you, that hold your values, that are a part of this. And I don't think it's unique to marketing. I think it's true in a lot of business and corporate spaces, because you'll often see people who are South Asian be middle managers. They're not going to be the executives, but they'll be the people that are in between, not the first entry-level position or the highest level, but in the middle. And I think there's a lot of stagnation that happens there. And I think it'd be remiss not to acknowledge the fact that the world feels really heavy right now. There's a lot of conflict and pain and grief that our communities are experiencing. And I often think about what is my role in that in terms of the agency and the access that I have. I feel very privileged to be in the spaces that I'm in, but I think it also feels like there's an opportunity for you to show up for your community because you've been given this privilege for a reason. And I think for us as a company, a lot of that has come in how do you claim to do business differently? There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. There's a lot of subversive discourses. I'm sure a lot of you are really familiar with that. I don't want to lecture you about those things, but I think it makes doing business that's meaningful really hard, because there is no black and white definition of things. There's a lot of things that happen in the gray, but I go to sleep telling myself, do I feel good about my conscience and have I done enough? And because I'm a Muslim founder, because I'm Pakistani, we do Ramadan programming with CMOs and CEOs, and it's the first time people who have been in the Muslim executives in the industry have been around and doing their work for 20 years. It's the first time they've been invited to a business iftar. And we did this 2 years after, 2 years ago once we graduated college, and I think that was like a shattering moment for me, because these are people that have really paved the way for people like us to be in these rooms and spaces, but still don't even have the ability to be in community with each other. So I think whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Diwali, whether it's Eid, whether it's like doing a Hanukkah party, right? Like a lot of our communities are in pain and want to feel like they can heal. And I think the one thing that we've been trying to do the most that we can with our access is like our level of connections or our level of ability to connect people is what was really unique about Juve. So I've always tried to ask myself, like, if I think about power and privilege on a paradigm or like on an axis, like where do I sit within it and what can I do to give back to my community? Because I feel very, very, very grateful to do the work that I do, and not that many people that look like us or think like us are in industries like marketing. And if you want to know where power and influence begins, especially in this moment, it's great to be a lawyer, doctor, engineer. Don't get it twisted. Like, there's stable jobs. I said I was going to be a pediatrician when I was in 6th grade, and very quickly realized I'm not going to do that. But I think being a founder, like if you're being in press, being a journalist, being a creator, like being in places that really influence people really matters, and we don't always think in those ways of how does power exist. If you're going to be a doctor, then be the chief medical officer, and then be the CEO of the hospital also. So I think I've been thinking a lot about power and privilege and who gets the seat at the table, and what are the voices that we choose to amplify, especially in a moment that feels really heavy.
Wow, a lot to sit with. Something that kind of resonated with me throughout both of your answers was like just like how you guys are really focusing on like the sustainability of your practices, and you know it's becoming increasingly important across like all of these different sectors to make sure that you know we create a strong foundation for everything that we're doing, especially as we are trailblazers. Like, you know, if people like us haven't done these things before, then we have to lay that groundwork, create that institutional information and memory to kind of have this be going on beyond our years. And so how, and I would love to extend this question especially to Neerja and Sonal, how do you guys integrate sustainability into your guys' business models and creative projects? Are there any specific initiatives or practices that you've adopted to make sure that your work not only fosters, you know, growth and collaboration, but also brings tangible change to the society?
I'm very mindful of the brands that I work with and what they stand for, because I think that's a big reflection on me as a founder and my company. Especially being in PR and marketing, you're really putting, you know, an image out there for yourself as well, given, you know, depending on the brands that you are representing. So I choose not to work with brands that don't have an ethical standard, that don't, you know, want to bring like sustainability to the forefront, because I'm a big believer in that. Currently I'm working with a South Asian fashion rental company, just because I think that the rental market is phenomenal. I mean, you know, there's so much overconsumption in fashion right now. I mean, and it has been. So, you know, really trying to change the mindset about how important rental is and how convenient and cost-friendly it is. And not only am I choosing to work with a fashion rental company, but a fashion rental company that leads with sustainability efforts. You know, they're, I mean, the clothes are what they are, but then even their packaging. You know, the zip ties that they use, the packaging that they use all comes from recyclable materials. Their mailers that they have can be, you know, used multiple times, because when you think about the world we live in that is run by like an Amazon, you know, you order a pencil and you get a box this big. And then you just throw it out, and it really sucks. And so, you know, a brand that really focuses on even the packaging, like I think that that's really important. Or brands that want to say that they're sustainable, but then they don't partner with the right content creator that doesn't have that same ethos. And so you want to make sure that you're practicing what you're preaching. So you can't be like, I'm this, you know, brand that really believes in all of these social issues or, you know, all of these other practices, but then tie up with the content creator just because they have a ton of followers, but they don't follow the same practice. So being in PR and marketing, I want to really make sure that the brands that I represent also have the same image in the community that they want to portray on paper.
Yeah, I think especially with with our generation and our diaspora, we have so much power in just pure numbers. So like really our attention, I always like to say this, that like our attention is the most valuable thing in capitalism right now. And so like who we give that attention to and who we empower and kind of raise those voices up. I think that is also in itself something that can push sustainability forward. So I really, really appreciated that point. So
Reservations only. I started off the year in January, collaborated with a local artist, a culinary artist, and a style architect. The style architect, he is basically he creates wearable art, and he uses ethically sourced materials. Then in that our collaboration, I collaborated with a local culinary artist, and we basically highlighted sustainable living and eating, and his collection was called Ethos. So January started off with basically highlighting awareness around sustainability through living, eating, and the clothes that you wear. We hosted a tasting menu. So why do I say reservations? It's because I hold accountability that we're not wasting food. We're not wasting staff that's sitting around, wondering when the next customer's coming in. It's a curated affair where we know exactly how many guests are gonna come in and that they're going to take the art seriously. So the style architect that's putting all of his work, creating this beautiful wearable art that's ethically sourced, it's available to the public to not only see, but then I'm hosting that individual for an ability to, sell his work, to learn more about him. Same thing with the culinary artists. They're able to pair, their experience together to showcase, okay, this is a 5-course tasting menu. You're gonna take a deep dive on what influenced these artists. And so that's how I maintain sustainability around my business, is working with local talent, but at the same time curating the event where it's reservations only, ticketed events, and we know how many people to account for.
Yeah. So kind of like pivoting a little bit from that. So as people who we all represent South Asia and the South Asian diaspora within all of our fields, very much in the public sphere. I feel like all of you guys are in that sense. So as much as we want to share our culture and break these boundaries in our industries, we also want to make sure, especially within the context of being in the Western world, that we're not exploited for our culture, which is something that is incredibly seen, especially within South Asia. So in a world where this line between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation is increasingly scrutinized, how do you guys as founders kind of navigate this very delicate balance within your industries, especially when representing it in such context, and what do you think the respect for cultural diversity without falling into the trap of exploitation comes into that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. For us, we hate when something feels like tokenism or ticking your box, especially with our campaign shoots for our beauty campaigns. If we're going to be working with a South Asian or someone else from another culture, we always want to sit down with them and just kind of hear from them, what are you comfortable with? What kind of clothing would you be comfortable with wearing? Because there is a fine line. We want to give them our kind of brief of what we're looking for, and then we want them to give their feedback of what they're comfortable agreeing to or not agreeing to. But we also have a really diverse team in the background. So the beauty stylists, the actual wardrobe stylists, we want to make sure that they've also worked with people of color, and especially the cultures that we're going to be working with on set for that day. We always do that research beforehand so that there's no mishap on the set day, because we've had models come to us too, on shoot days saying thank you guys so much, because I've never felt so seen, because they've had really bad experiences on other sets where they haven't been able to have someone that works on black hair or black makeup, and just those little things go a long way when you just hire the right team that knows how to deal with their complexions and texture. So I think that just goes a long way too. And then also for our culture tutorials, we always want it to be kind of us passing the mic to them. So we're not trying to tell you what you should be speaking about in your culture. It's truly your perspective, what you want to share about it. So I think it's a really mutual kind of relationship where it's us kind of sharing what we would like to see, and then them kind of giving us feedback too, oh, but this is what I want to share. So kind of just working together in that way.
I have a lot of what you just said. I think the thing that I'll say more about as an individual is that I think when I was young, it was very unapologetically true that I showed up for all parts of my identity. And I don't think that's true for everyone, but if someone was Shaina, I was no, it's Shaina. It's China with a Shaina. I had it on deck, and I think if you can say Tchaikovsky, you can say Shaina, please, So I think some of it was really important for me to be like, there are markers of my identity that I think are really important to me, and like I want them to be a space of conversation. I want to like remind people that this is who I am, because, and I think even being in business, right? Like I walk into a room, I'm like the only Muslim there. I'm the youngest person by a few decades there, and I've had a lot of people who are older, like 20, 30 years in the industry, or executives come to me and say like, I like want to learn from you, or I look to learn from you, because I don't actually get to interact with people that have your perspective that often. And I think if you can be the reason why someone feels like they're a little bit more educated or aware about the world around them, like that is really powerful. And you can do that as like a 17, 18, 19-year-old also. Like it's actually more interesting when you say something, because people are like, oh my God, like you help me understand my kids. Or like, I don't know what lip means, or I don't know what any of this means, like just tell me about it, like let's unpack that. And they want to like use it with their kids later. So when we do presentations for clients, even they'll say like, I feel like I got to learn so much more about my kids, you help me understand them. And I think it's about translation, right? How can you do that between an older person and a younger person, between someone who's not from your community and someone else? But I think that goes a really long way if you learn to become, comfortable with the things that maybe even make you uncomfortable, even if you're not fully in tune with all parts of your identity. I think it goes a long way if you like take a little bit of that plunge to say like, I am going to correct someone next time they say my name wrong, or like there are parts of myself that like I am really proud of, even if you haven't fully interrogated them. Like that's okay. Like it's a lifelong process to figure out who the F you are. I don't even think I really know, but I think that does go a long way. And like I'm also really annoying about it. Like if someone is like, oh, my name is like Mo or Shri, I'm like, what's Shri short for? Like Muhammad? Like tell me. And I think it's like I'm very unabashed when I do it, but I think it's also nice to call in like your peers or your friends. Like I automatically just act like I'm the brown bestie, even though I'm not. But I think it's okay for you to like have those conversations even with your friends or your peers or your parents, because these are things that like you will never leave that part of like who you were. Like even if you grew up here, like home is still where your parents were born also. So that's like what I feel on like an individual level.
So I want to touch a little bit upon tokenism that you use, because for me in PR I've seen the benefits of it and actually the sad reality of it. And the benefits have been, I started my PR company 15 years ago, and I would pitch stories of young talent or brands that were coming up to a white male dominated company, and no one was looking at these press releases. No one was looking at these media outlets. No one cared about the name of the company, and it's sad because some talent would like have to change their name just for like their resumes to be seen, and it's it's not fair and it's not right. But now like we have people like we have like a Varsha Sharma, who's the editor of Teen Vogue. We have Neo Prakash, who's the director at Marie Claire, and we've got these. 15 years ago I didn't have these names to talk to, but now for whatever reason, like all these amazing people are at these companies that you can now talk to and be like, listen, you understand my culture, you understand how important it is to share these stories. And so I'm really glad that like a lot of these companies have moved into hiring all of these amazing people for their talent that understand this community, and it's much easier to get placement. It's much easier to at least have your story be seen and heard. However, there is so much work to be done. This past Diwali, I got a call from, I'm not going to name, it's a private equity firm, and they wanted me to help put their Diwali together. They had no budget. This is like the Rolls Royce of private equity. This is like the Burberry private equity. There's no way that they don't have a budget, but they didn't put a budget, right? Which to me was just so frustrating. Like, you want me to call in my community and my people so you can check the box that your company celebrated Diwali. I turned it down. They did it. Obviously, they're going to do it anyways. But, for whatever reasons, they would not talk about it. They won't allow any of it on social media. The one woman that they had there, they wanted her to wear a sari so the CEO could take a picture. Wow. And it was the most frustrating thing for me. Again, we'll not name the private equity firm. That's not okay. So there's a lot of work to be done where you can't just do things that you're doing just to check the box on all of it, because it is just like, tokenism. We have this one Indian woman, let's put a sari on her, let's take a picture with the CEO, and let's sell it to the trades. Like that's a lot of work to be done.
So with this one, I have to say I'm the black sheep in the sense that I didn't grow up looking like a typical South Asian. My mom's a redhead. I'm light skinned. I was born a redhead, and it took a lot of effort for me to try to fit in, which means I dyed my hair. I would, go tanning just to be accepted, because people be like, are you really Indian? Like, are you sure? Are you a percentage? Yeah, there is fusion on my mom's side and my dad's side, but I consider myself South Asian. I love the culture. I love everything about it. But for me, it was hard to find my place. So I consider myself a human. And I would just connect with everyone with what they did and with their stories. And I think that just evolved me to where I am now, which is to connect with everyone, bring unity and community, regardless of their backgrounds and where they're from. When I first started this business as a founder, I held on to my roots and I honored my grandparents. And when Diwali came around, I said, you know what, I really want to do an event at this space, really bless it with my culture. And I reached out to the South Asian group at Yale and said, would you like a platform where we can celebrate our uniqueness?
I love that.
And it was just, it was such an emotional moment to have like all the South Asians at Yale show up that day. And this is a founder who's like, how am I gonna get people through the door? Like, how am I gonna let people know I exist? And they just turned it out, and everyone's wearing all these vibrant outfits and colors, and it just really brought everything together. So I think finding authenticity in being who you are, regardless of all the hurdles you're gonna face with, corporate, the people, bureaucracy, and all of that. Just, be authentic to your voice, no matter what, no matter, whether you look different or not.
That was a great plug-in for our gala, actually, where you will also see a whole bunch of vibrant clothing. But no, I definitely echo the sense that there's no mold to be South Asian, in the sense that we all have come from so many different backgrounds, even within one country. For example, India, there are so many different rich cultural heritages. Same with Nepal, same with Bangladesh. There's just, no matter where you go, you're gonna find that diversity and richness. And so I think kind of bringing into the concept of sharing and spreading the love of who we are, I would love to talk more about collaborations and how to kind of extend the work that we are all currently doing. I guess the power of collaboration and how it drives innovation and change just cannot be overstated, of how people coming together from whether it be different communities, within your own community, to solve a problem or whatever it may be. Are there any particular sectors or industries that you guys are interested in kind of venturing towards with your brands, and how do you envision these collaborations kind of bringing people together and building that community? Because I think I can definitely say from all of your guys' perspectives that the main mission here seems to be we are here, but we want to bring each other together. We want to lift each other up and make sure there's a space for us within ourselves too. So how do you see collaboration playing a part in all of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually love seeing so many South Asian beauty brands out there now. We're seeing a lot more coming to the fold, which is exciting. So I think there'd be so much power if we all kind of can come together and collaborate, because I know there's kind of other industry collaborations like beauty and fashion or things like that. But I think there's always power when you can come together and allow that South Asian representation to be bigger and larger than it is right now. But also I feel it'd be interesting to collab with the travel industry, especially with CTZN, because we're all about enhancing cultural awareness around the world. So I can kind of see that being something that we look into eventually. I don't know what that would look like, but it's definitely an industry I think that could be relevant for us.
I mean, Juba is a marketing company, marketing agency, so we're oftentimes working with other brands or other agencies that are often some that are run by people of color, for example. I think my greater takeaway of doing this work is that most CMOs are white women, and it's a very white space in general. But I think as important as it there are parts of the South Asian community where we be fighting our own. We are not looking out for each other, we are not supporting each other, and I think that's one thing that we should of course interrogate as a community, be how can I look out and support you? You winning is also a win for me, which is one thing. But I think the other part of it also is how do you get people that are actually supposed to be allies and advocates for us that are not within our community. I think that's where real progress really starts, is when you get someone that's not from your community to actually believe in what you're saying and believe in your work. So when I think about collaboration, a lot of it is like, get out of your echo chamber. It's like much harder. I think all my friends from college are either brown or Muslim or both. But the people who aren't in those categories are people who I really feel aligned with in my values. And I think that there's some things that are just universal in terms of how you connect with people and how you meet with them. And it's even better if you can find people that maybe don't hold your values so that you can maybe convince them otherwise. And college, I think, is a place where you really get to do that. Once you get into the real world, it's like, okay, like, you kind of know who you know. And like, odds are you're probably going to end up in New York or LA or a big city. And then your echo chamber only gets further reinforced. But I would really hope that, especially for you all that are like here, like, still getting to meet new people and like try new things, like continue to experiment as much as you can, because getting to collaborate with someone that doesn't actually look like you or think like you can also be very, very powerful. And I think that's like where the most interesting work and interesting ideas come about, but much harder when you're not in a space where you can meet incredible people every single day, a place like Yale or colleges.
I feel like PR thrives on collaborations, you know, I mean, the biggest part of my job is that the creativity about how to make two brands that have nothing to do with each other work with one another. How do we get a small brand in front of, you know, a huge company? There's so many different alignments. You just have to be really creative. I don't know if you guys saw, like, Lexus had an ad with Holy Chic last year, which was amazing. Like, who would think a Indian fusion clothing brand could do something with Lexus? But it's really cool to put collaborations like that. I did Diwali for Walt Disney World last October, and we got dance companies to come perform there, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. We have like young kids performing at Animal Kingdom, you know, so you have to really like be, and it is like, it's, you know, it was like this amazing moment for them, and they had Mickey Mouse come out, and, you know, it was just like, who would have thought that these dance companies could do something with Walt Disney World? And so I think that like PR really thrives on collaborations, and part of the work I do is a lot of networking, because you just never know who can kind of find this creative way to bring your business or your talent into the forefront and really find like multiple angles for it. So I love the idea of collaborations, because I think, like, you know, it's just more powerful to do something with more people, different communities, and all of these multicultural agencies and stuff like that. There's a lot of great work that can be done if you know, are open to collaborating.
Yeah, and I second that for sure. Within collaboration, especially at my space, we're working with 5 talented individuals and 2 musicians, an artist, actually no, 3 musicians, percussionists, DJs. They each bring something, each of those 5 different individuals. Perspective is a big thing. You get to see different perspectives on how they work, how they maneuver, how they solve problems. Collaboration is key to growth. If you really want to enhance, you know, where you want to go with your career, or even on a personal level, I have been able to learn to step back. As a founder, it's very difficult to step back and say, okay, you guys are collaborating, now I'm gonna let you run with it. So I started to learn to step back and say, okay, let's see how they're going to put this campaign together. How are they gonna market themselves? And how are they going to enhance one another? So everyone's in alignment. Not one person is doing all the legwork, but everyone is pitching in and elevating each other, holding each other accountable, so each collab gets visibility. I think that's really important, to make sure that everyone's in alignment. It's beautiful, collaboration is beautiful, but having clear communication on what the expectations are, you know, so you know, like, okay, you're doing the month of February, you're collaborating with each other. I want to see each of you shout out to each other, because if you're successful, then I'm successful, and if you're going to tag me, then you got to tag them too. So it's like running with a pack and having that, you know, pack mentality. So yes, collaboration is the key. You know, we're all on this planet together. So it's a way to survive.
Yeah. I really just wanted to highlight about, like, you know, different points of all of your guys' answers, and just like to kind of like away with the silos. because, and this is why I kind of really love the mission of SAI and what we're doing here in general, which is just that like, we want to bring about, not within ourselves, just within ourselves of like appreciating our own culture and everything, but we also want to, share that with other people because there's so much joy in like, for example, like a lot of my friends here, have never heard much about Nepal or whatever it may be, and like being able to kind of be like, hey, like I'm doing this really big thing, like we'd love to kind of have you come here, and having people who are open-minded enough to come and learn about other people's communities. I think there's a level of reciprocity that is required there, and just like kind of bringing more and more people into the fold, and I just love that message of like wanting to make sure that like not only within ourselves are we celebrating it, but like learning about other people's cultures, having them learn about us, and like just kind of helps us as human beings connect with each other on like a better level when you just understand where do people's communities' values come from. Because I do think that like as South Asians there are some values that such as family, loyalty, that are more emphasized within our culture than other cultures. So and I love how kind of collaboration helps us understand each other in that way. But kind of shifting again a little bit, for Neerja and Sonal, you guys have both been like instrumental in the speed of bringing forth the richness of South Asian culture in both very unique ways. And so I guess I want to know, like, you guys both work with very different mediums, with you mostly with collaborations and kind of creating content wherever that may fit, and with Sonal, a lot of, just all five senses. I really love like your connection of like trying to engage with people through all five like senses. And so I guess, how do you like navigate these traditional values that I think like some that I just mentioned, but also others that, people in the West especially can maybe see as repressive, or even, not in alignment with what, current day standards are, and with contemporary culture within your guys' campaigns. Like, how do you envision these different mediums kind of aiding and building that community, but like also kind of blending these like traditional but also contemporary values together? Like, how do you kind of make that connection, whether it's intergenerationally, whether it's racially, like how do you kind of bring that all together?
I think I lead with sort of honoring our past, but then embracing the future. So really, a lot of the campaigns now, we lead more with culture and less religion. Just because I think that, you can be sensitive to the culture, but the new generation is not as religious. They don't really lead everything with religion, and so a lot of the campaigns are more culturally driven because people are they're proud. We're in this space where people are very proud to be South Asian or whatever background they have, and so let's celebrate that. But we want to be mindful that we don't take away what we came with. So we're really mindful of the campaigns that we do that still, the older generation gets offended very easily. So to make sure that we're not offensive in any way. I feel like a lot of work has been done to highlight South Asians. I think Barjat just left, but like it is amazing to have South Asians in a lot of different spaces now, whether it's on reality shows or TV, movie stars, and whatnot. But the work that needs to be done is about, let's celebrate who they are for the talent that they bring, for them just being the founder or the talent, not because it's a brown woman. Because when you lead with, oh, a brown woman did that, the presumption of like, well, we didn't expect that from them. Well, why not? And so it is amazing that we're in this space where, space is being created for us, but let's not give it the wrong title. Let's celebrate them for who they are. Let's put, a brown woman on the cover and not have it say South Asian. She's there because she earned it. She's there because she's a founder or she's a singer or whatever it is. And let's not highlight the fact that it leads with color and it leads with any sort of a background. So there's progress, but again, like I say, there's always work to be done, and these mediums will eventually, hopefully, find the right way to kind of celebrate this community and the work that individual people are doing.
I like that. People ask me, why did you call your business The Table and Gallery? And I highlight the focal point, the table. The table is where people come together. Food brings people together. I don't advocate for any specific religion, but tradition is we all come together, we sit at the table, and food is a universal love language. It knows no boundaries, no nothing. You're just there to enjoy each other's company through food. And for me, that table signifies, once again, unity. We're all coming together. And highlighting each individual's uniqueness, regardless of where they come from. But like I said, food speaks a lot of languages, and love is one of them.
Wow. Yeah, I really wanted to highlight that, like, you know, I feel like maybe 20, 30 years ago, we wanted to bring, like, okay, like, this is a South Asian coming into this space. But I feel like we have made so much progress within the last couple of decades that, like, you know, okay, like, great, we're South Asian, that's amazing, but like you said, like, even this panel, for example, when we were putting, you know, okay, what are we gonna name this? Like, we could have said all women's founders panel or whatever it may be, but we chose not to for a specific reason, which is that, like, okay, like, we are all doing respectively amazing work in our fields, but then we also happen to be women. In the same way that, like, we are doing amazing things in entrepreneurship, but we also happen to be brown. Like, I feel like it kind of takes away from the pigeonholing. Like, you know, you can explore your identities many different ways. Like, you can be a singer, you can be brown, you can be so many different things, and I feel like that's just being highlighted in every panel. Now that I'm thinking about it, just like, you know, we want to make sure that, like, we are, like, not just, you know, pigeonholed in this idea of, like, okay, we're South Asian, that's why we should be highlighting them. No, we should be highlighting them because, like, the effort and the tremendous amount of work that goes into all of the things that we do, like, that should be what is celebrated. And of course, our identity is a part of that, but that's not the central tenet to who every person is as a core. So I guess to kind of close off with my questions, I really wanted to ask you guys, you know, each to share, like, what your personal, like, mantra is, or, like, your guiding principles that keeps you really, really grounded, especially, you know, with all of you being very much in a public sphere. It can get very hard to, you know, find yourself back and bring yourself back to, like, a focal point of, like, okay, this is who I am, this is what grounds me, these are the values that I live by. So, you know, like, what are those for you guys, and how do you guys, like, you know, like, keep focused on that despite individual challenges or things that are happening within your industries?
Yeah, well, for me, it helps having sisters that I work with because we always keep each other in check, and we also know each other the best too. So if anyone ever needs, like, be humbled or whatever it is, like, we're the best people to do it. So I think it just helps also, yeah, working with family, like, you can trust no one else more than them. But then also just, like, having check-ins with yourself, like, wait, why did I fall in love with the brand in the first place? Like, what was my deep why to start with? Because I feel like as you build the brand, you get, like, caught up in the rut of things and, like, the challenges that come with it. But I feel like we're trying to now, on a weekly basis, remind ourselves why we were so passionate to even start the brand in the first place. Because then that kind of gets your creative juices flowing again. Because you can easily just get into that slump of just, like, doing tasks and doing things, but not truly being inspired to create change in, like, a meaningful way. So I think that is just really important, like, remembering your deep why and then just constantly reminding yourself of it, like, as much as you can.
I'm definitely someone who grounds myself in my faith first and foremost, and I think as a Muslim, there's the beauty of the faith is that, like, your intention really matters. Like, there's obviously a difference between intention versus impact, but I think reminding myself that I'm choosing to do something because I have the right intent, and if I can feel like I made this decision knowing all variables at play and then doing something, then I, like, leave it to the universe, leave it to God, and, like, whatever's meant to happen happens, because I really do believe that everything happens for a reason, and also it's about control. Like, I'm a very type A anal person. I go by my Google Calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. And a lot of my time going into 6 years of working, which is seen to say, has been to say, okay, something's just not going to be in your control. And the easiest way for me to let go of that is to be like, okay, if there has to be some reason on this earth, if I can leave it a little bit better than I found it, that's enough. So I think it's similar to what you were saying, like, what's your why and how do you show up for it, and can you say it in one sentence? And I think mine is that I'm going to be intentional with what I do and just hope to do things that make me feel like I've left the world better than I found it, even if it's in a really small micro action and not like, I'm going to change the world, because it's a much, much harder task, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't necessarily try. But I think that would be my mantra. It's a very good question.
So So my mantra is to know your worth, and I think that has led to a lot of different opportunities I have said yes to from not even having like imposter syndrome, or have said no to because I don't think it's worth my time. I don't think it's worth my energy or the community that I have built. So it really helps me center, is like know my worth. So is this worth me putting my name behind it? Is this going to drive change? Is this going to help me grow? And if those answers are no, then that particular project or whatever that ask is not worth it. And if those answers are yes, then of course I will dive in. The other thing that keeps me grounded, I'm a mom, and so I want to make sure, like, would my kids be proud of this? Am I doing something that is going to help this generation? And you know, if this doesn't foster change, if this doesn't foster conversation, then maybe this is not what's right for me. So all of those kind of things really kind of play in my mind when I go into any sort of a challenge, or when I go into a project, or when I go into a meeting. And those are all of the things I sort of ask myself, that is this worth my time? Are, you know, people in my life going to be proud of me for doing this? And that's really what drives me.
For me, it's today's my last day to live, and how am I going to live this day today? How will I be remembered, and how am I impacting others with this opportunity? And having a platform where I can help others achieve their dreams is just a dream in itself for me, that I can do that. So, you know, yes, I do remind myself that, you know what, today is my last day. How will I play out this day, and how is it going to impact others? And gratitude. I practice gratitude. I'm very grateful being here and having this platform to share what I'm doing and this story. So, yeah, thank you.
Can everyone just give it up for I think we may have time for like one or two audience questions, if anybody has any. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the discussion. It was really helpful. Just for some context, I'm interested in developing initiatives that center women's health, particularly issues that affect South Asian women disproportionately. So things like diabetes, stroke, heart disease. And the question that I'm asked often, and something that I think about and haven't come to a really solid answer on, is how do you convince a group of investors who are primarily white, primarily male, to be engaging with these issues that disproportionately affect South Asian women, South Asians in general? Any 2 cents on that situation would be very appreciated.
Wow, good question.
I don't know a whole lot on that, but you know who would be great is Prince. Like they did the
Yeah, I was
whole.
just about to
I don't know
say.
if you were. Has he been?
Yeah,
has he
no,
been
he's
on
going to be on a panel. Actually, the next panel that's happening after lunch is collective action, and his company, Asana Voices, actually does the exact
a lot of
work.
heart work, and particularly for that, for all of the health issues that are in the South Asian community. So I have not done a whole lot of work on that, but if that is of your concern, I think he'd be a great person for you to connect with.
I have some feedback on that, even though I'm not like a practitioner. But as a female founder, you're going to face challenges. You want to align yourself with those power players that are experts in that field. Put together a strong case study on what you're trying to do, and let the investors know that you're serious. You know, you have put together a team of experts that has done this study and what's happening, and really utilize those experts and align with institutions that are going to back up what you're doing to really strengthen your voice. It does take a village, and with anything you do, especially as a female and being of South Asian descent, you really want to align yourself with those power players that's going to help you with your mission.
Quick note that I'll give is that I think you're always going to have to make the business case of why to do good in the beginning, and eventually there will be a point where you can say like you should just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, business is not there, but I grapple a lot with that personally. And then to add on to the point that Sonal just made, I think also outside of your field, knowing other people that are already in the industry that will be your advocate. So like there's a, I don't know if you know this company called Avia, but it's run by like an incredible brown woman. Her name is Avia, which is rhymes, but I guess I'm just realizing that now. But it's a hormonal healthcare platform. It's like number 13 on the App Store right now. They just released an app, but she's incredible, and I'm happy to connect you with her. But I think there's a lot of there's very few people that are also in the spaces that you're talking about. But if you can find other women or South Asian folks that will like be your advocates, give you testimonial, give you mentorship, whatever, that'll just help you navigate the space better, because not everyone is as proximate to them. But I do think, unfortunately, you'll have to like point to data and see like why you're like what your projections are and what like the market sizes, etc. Because I don't think we're in a place where people want to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Very valid. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we can break for lunch. Can we again give it up to all of our
And for Nikita.